Hi, as Scott said, this is On My Nightstand, and I'm Laura Cathcart-Robbins. And today we're bringing you a reading from next week's guest, Keith Corbin, which is really exciting for us. Love this interview with Keith. You're going to want to listen to it after you hear this reading, but make sure you tune in. Keith Corbin is a James Beard Award-nominated executive chef and co-owner of Alta Adams in Los Angeles, named one of the best restaurants in the country by Esquire, Thrillist, and the Los Angeles Times. A native of Watts, Corbin was formerly director of operations for the local restaurant group and worked for Daniel Patterson at his Michelin-starred fine dining establishment called Koi in San Francisco. So I'm going to read you a little bit from the prologue of this book and then read you something from I Got the Keys, which is one of my favorite chapters. The book you're about to read isn't a gangland morality tale or a prisoner makes good drama or a chef memoir that paints my life as a uniquely American success story. Most of these stories end when the protagonist is deemed transformed enough to step through a magic door and enter mainstream white society. I know that song all too well. My magic door was supposed to be cooking. But when you're a black man coming from where I come from, the door may open, but you may never make it all the way through. This book is my opportunity to ditch the tropes and tell my whole story. The story of what it's like to grow up black in America under some of the worst circumstances, to see unspeakable tragedy, to commit acts of violence and crime, to get locked up and then locked up again, to attempt to go straight and find the system unforgiving, to find a passion and go for it, to succeed and fail, and be forced to fight for your place at the table. This book is called California Soul, not just because that's the type of food I cook, or because I'm uniquely tethered to the place where I was raised, but also because I've poured my soul into this story, and I want you to know that. When you read it, you're staring at a piece of me and my truth. That's the prologue to California Soul, an epic of cooking and survival by Keith Corbin. And now I'm going to be reading from the chapter called I Got the Keys. And at this point, Keith is in prison. It's in a maximum security prison. It's kind of the worst prison that he could have been sent to. And he's just explaining to us what life is like there. And he says the prison couldn't officially approve of segregation, but there are ways around that. In enforcing the convict code, violence, and prison culture, the author Rebecca Trammell cites a study of California prison reception centers in 2008, which found that guards made the inmates say their race and then ask if they would be willing to bunk with other races. If an inmate said yes, he was asked again until the inmate figured out the correct answer was no. For the prison, this was the bluntest and easiest way to tamp down on violence. Among the prisoners, once we were inside, we took it one step further and broke ourselves down into quote-unquote cars. A car is your prison family, your tribe, the people you ride with. Your car is determined by your race, where you're from, and your gang. A car can be 2 people or 100, but there's always a driver, someone steering the car, deciding which way to go. That person has the quote-unquote keys. When I got to Calipatria, the driver was my homie Cisco, a lifer from Grape Street, who was about 20 years older than me. He ran with my mom back in the day. As soon as I got there, he moved me into his building, solidifying my rep. Though we had about 15 to 20 people in our car, because Compton and Watts, the hub, and the dub usually roll together in prison, there were 40 to 50 dudes in total from our 2 hoods. We rolled deep. An important distinction between level 4 and other levels is that in the 4s, the paperwork gangs had everything locked down. They were lifers, and the prison was now their home, so they weren't looking to disrespect or mess up what they had going on in there for some shit happening on the outside. Anything that went down on the street stayed in the streets. You could be a bounty hunter blood, or you could have shot my brother, or hell, shot me. That would have to remain on the outside. That's not to say that violence didn't occur. It certainly did. But mostly it was a result of what you did in prison. Even so, I never felt safe while I was there, not one day, not even the day of my release. You're not safe until you're out, until you're sitting on your couch at home. And you better not tell anyone your release date, because prisoners can use that information against you, start testing you, knowing full well you don't want to do anything that might jeopardize your getting out. That whole misery loves company line, that shit should be on posters in the walls of prisons, because there are plenty of dudes who aren't going home who would love to catch you up and make you one of them. You can go into that motherfucker with 30 days, and just by protecting yourself and hurting someone really bad in the process, you wind up never getting out. Now the 30 days is out the window. Now you're in for life.